Hello, I'm Maria Ressa, and welcome to Rappler Talk. Joining us today is Commission on Higher Education Chairperson Patricia Licuanan. Also a women's rights advocate, Licuanan was chair of the main committee of the Fourth World Conference in Beijing 20 years ago. How will technopreneurship change economic development in the Philippines? We've been talking about this for a long time. Where does it impact education? Also in the discussion agenda today, the K-12 transition. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us here.
Good afternoon, Maria. Happy to be here.
Well, could you please, give the lay of the land. What is the state of education today in the Philippines? How competitive are we?
Well, maybe I'll start with the second question because I could go anywhere with the state of Philippine education. There are many good things about it. We hear that we've almost 2,000 higher education institutions in the Philippines. That's both good and bad because they represent quite a range. I think our top institutions are quite competitive, although perhaps the global rankings don't always show that. They list 3 or 4 universities, but I think in general we have some very, very good universities. We're working on basic education. We know, you know that we have very ambitious reform. We have added 2 years to the basic education cycle, and now we're, I guess, and hopefully we will have the guts to push it through.
What does that mean for the actual curriculum of what Filipino students will get in school?
Well, so basically we've had a 10-year cycle, and the critique of this has been that we cramp too much into that time. So in terms of what is actually taught, we probably are comparable, but we try to squeeze it in a shorter time so you don't get the type of drill, the type of practice that is necessary.
Well, the other criticism I've heard is that our graduates graduate so young, so even emotional maturity, right?
Exactly. So the advantage of this extra 2 years is that they'll be better prepared for college, they'll be better prepared for work, and they will get the subject matter in a way that is better learned.
In terms of the world that our graduates are going into, it is what's the right word? Creative destruction. Technology is really ripping the foundations of our old world apart, including the educational system. You've talked about this as technopreneurship, but how do you integrate technology now into this curriculum that Filipino students will have?
Well, I think it's there already. All these young people are truly living in a different world. They function quite differently. They're so comfortable with technology that we haven't really learned completely. At least I'm talking for myself.
Yeah. No, the digital natives, I agree with you. They're a different breed from us.
So I think that's inevitable. Of course, there still is the issue that there are divides. So certainly the urbanites and those from a certain social class would have access to this a lot more. So part of the challenge, I think, to Philippine education is to make sure that technology will benefit all. So it has to be inclusive as well. And people tell us that there are really, they don't have to tell us, we know that there are parts in the country where they don't have access to IT the same way that our the students we see day to day.
That's tossed to be often, and then the response I always give is that 70% of Filipinos actually access the internet through internet cafes. They do gaming, right? Yeah. But how do you actually include it in the curriculum? I mean, do we have a workflow? Do we have a system that would include this?
Well, can I go now to the
entrepreneurship? Yeah.
So basically, the way CHED, the Commission on Higher Education, operates, it reviews curricula, and so one intervention is always the curriculum. It's not the only one by any means, but so one way is always to look at what is needed by the curriculum, and one source of this information is always industry. So CHED always interacts with industry. We work with what we call technical panels or expert technical committees, and in each of these committees, which represent disciplines, we have professionals, we have practitioners always represented. So anyway, in this exchange with industry, they do tell us what is needed, and recently, prior to our relationship with the Philippine S&T Development Foundation, or PhilDev, who pushed us, they were pushing us for putting entrepreneurship in the engineering curriculum. But prior to that, we had the IT, business processing outsourcing group, and we embedded certain courses in the curriculum of IT and business administration to create a service management track, so that these graduates would be better prepared for the IT BPO industry. Then we had a group, I don't know if I can mention it, IBM, for instance, was pushing us to create a track for, they called it analytics, business analytics, working with large data. And they said this is the sexy job of the future. And they said, yes, we need a lot of people, and the Philippines can be a center for analytics. So again, CHED, working with them, put this in the IT and the business curriculum. They seem to be the most open to having a few courses become part of it. And now we have this technopreneurship.
What does that mean?
Essentially, it is marrying science and technology and entrepreneurship. Because you think of science and technology, they're your laboratories, you develop all these really nerds, but essentially, what we need are those nerds, are those, technical people, S&T people, engineers, developing products that will eventually make it to the market. So basically, what we have embedded again in the engineering curriculum is our courses on entrepreneurship, so that eventually they will also be creators of innovation that will grow the economy.
So what I've seen as an employer, at least in my old network and in Rappler, is that we have a lot of coders or engineers, but in terms of actually taking the actual manual thing and moving it up to
scaling it up.
Right, but with the creativity to create a new business, for example, like what Mark Zuckerberg did with Facebook. That's that kind of thing, it seems.
I think that is probably more descriptive of a decade or so, or even more ago. I think now we do have a lot more of the real creative people who have gone beyond encoding and
we've also seemed to be gearing them to work for large corporations rather than IT departments of large corporations, rather than technopreneurship. I mean, how long ago and when will we see them coming out?
Yes, because I think the essence of technopreneurship, the essence of entrepreneurship is that you start your own thing. You don't, and I have noticed that as well as a slight change over the decades. I've worked at universities, and there was a period where the top graduates of, let's say, the University of the Philippines, Ateneo, LaSalle, would join these large corporations and go up the management ladder. Correct. And become top executive.
Right.
It was not fashionable when I was still teaching undergraduates for them to set up their own business. It was a little bit whatever. It really was not the thing to do. Right. At that time. But that has changed. More and more young people are actually setting up small businesses of their own, restaurants, laundries, whatever, and that's okay. And that's, in fact, and I think that's where the entrepreneurship, the entrepreneurial spirit shows itself.
When did CHED start putting this into the curriculum, and when do we expect to see them coming out?
Technopreneurship will start this.
So it's coming in now.
Yes.
And PhilDev is Dado Banatao, correct?
Yes,
so
that's right.
Dado Banatao is a man who came from the Philippines and then became one of the top Silicon Valley
and he's
executives.
a great role model for that sort of thing.
I think sold his first company for $30 million to IBM, I think, or something like that. But in terms of, he comes from an engineering background, really hard. What about, so this will begin this now. What about the other aspects of it? The wave of technology, the network impact of it. How can we create an Uber or an Airbnb? Are we teaching these types of concepts in school?
I guess we'll have to see whether further down the line this will happen, but that's the intention. That essentially these guys who are, I guess, whose curriculum focuses on science and technology will also, rather than just use the theory, just be satisfied with theory, they have to somehow create something and then make it marketable and make it profitable. And that's what we hope will happen with introducing entrepreneurship in the engineering curriculum, because that is a criticism of our engineering schools, that they're a little bit they're strong in theory, but not as good
in application. You mentioned analytics before. You know, data scientists are probably the most in demand in the world right now,
and that will even grow further.
Yes. I guess, what is the biggest challenge for you now in implementing an agenda like this?
Well, I'll start with the very basics. Essentially, one must not be overwhelmed, one must not be discouraged, one must be, and I'm talking now of the government, of institutions, we must not be worried about whether we are prepared enough. We must be ready to make mistakes and learn from them. As a matter of fact, one of the things about entrepreneurship is to help students make mistakes early in their careers and not allow them to be defeated by mistakes, that they keep learning from them, coming back, trying again. That is a fantastic
The tech mantra for that is fail fast, fail forward, fail better.
Oh, I like that. Fail fast,
fail forward, fail better.
Yes, exactly. Because, that can ruin anyone. First mistake, and then that's it. They quit. No, they have to learn. And yes, I've heard Dado Banatao say that. No, they have to learn. They should make their mistakes very early on.
Right. But CHED is in a difficult position because you are an institution. How do you maintain a certain standard? How do you maintain the quality of the students that will come out?
Well, that's our job, and it's not, and we're supposed to look over all these institutions, and like I say, they represent a wide range. And we have to, again, find a balance between our regulatory function and our development function. Right. They hate us for our regulatory function, and they associate us mainly with that. But we say, no, that's not all we do. But someone's got to do this too. Correct. It's a dirty job, but we can't have so many substandard programs around. We can't tolerate that, and it's not fair to the consumer, you know. And yet, people have said, and initially I believed that market forces will take care of these substandard institutions. But no, it was the market forces that brought them in the first place. Yeah. So one has to see it that way also, from that perspective.
One of the problems of the tech world in the developed world is gender inequality. There aren't enough women moving into tech. In fact, there are many countries now trying to help women develop in tech, as coders, as entrepreneurs. And you are an advocate for gender equality. From your view, what do you think about that, and how does it translate to the Philippines?
Well, certainly I would push, and that's one of the things CHED does. It gives scholarships for women in non-traditional careers, and for that matter, to men in non-traditional careers. If men want to go into the stereotyped women's fields, we encourage that as well, because it should be very inclusive. Yes, the UNESCO statistics are very clear that women are underrepresented in science and technology. I'm actually a social psychologist, and so I think part of it is culture, that essentially, you associate certain fields as the hard sciences as more male, a place for males, and so forth. Education in the Philippines has been really seen as being very gender balanced. There's equality between women and men in participation in education, as well as the graduates we produce and so forth. But there is one area where you really still see inequality, and that is in stereotyping of certain disciplines.
Jobs. Yes.
Certain jobs, exactly.
Yeah.
So that still exists, and that still has to be overcome.
In terms of, the Philippines right now, the largest dollar earner are still the OFWs, our exports, our people. And there have been waves of this, in the 60s of the doctors, the nurses,
construction workers,
seamen, then IT professionals at one point. Do you ever see one of the export products being technopreneurs? I mean, if they do not find the work in this country, will we develop them and send them overseas again?
I think that is part of the fear of ASEAN integration and all the mobility that we are anticipating. That are we going to lose therefore all of our talented people? I don't think we should fear that, but essentially we should really work on the jobs, of course, here at home.
Right.
But we can't let that fear stop us also from integrating, as well as from keeping all of our protectionist policies, because we have to be a bit more open. So that's where I hope we're heading.
It's great that CHED is putting these into the curriculum, but when I compare the Philippines, say, to Singapore, which has 10-year plans for education, you're telling me why? Why would we not compare against, say, the best? Do we not want to be the best?
Of course. No, of course we want to be the best. But sometimes it can be discouraging. I know, I suffer from it myself. I said, oh, don't stop. Don't tell me how great all of these things are, because it'll take a while.
Right.
But it's also good to set those goals.
Right.
And so I do think there are certain things that we have to develop in the Philippines and in the Philippine system. Well, the first is, of course, to start these reforms that we are the most studied educational system in the world. Everyone has, the late brother Andrew Gonzalez said that, we've been studied to death. And the recommendations are pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So now it's a matter of implementing them. So having that type of courage and political will to do so. And learn from the strengths of these countries. Of course, discipline, rigor, that's very Singaporean. But what you point out are the plans. we have plans too, you know.
Right.
We just don't. We just don't implement. We're so good at planning.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if it was Lee Kuan Yew who pointed that out. That we're great. We have plans galore.
We do,
we're
even
so
in
good
climate
as a
change,
country.
right? Yeah, we have great plans, great
because
laws.
we write well, we speak well. It's all there, but you know, it kind of stops. So that we have to go to the next layer of just innovating and having the courage to go one step further. And in this case, like I say, K to 12, all of these things, we have to go through with it.
I have a sense of urgency because this is really a tipping point at this moment in time. Do you share that? And what is CHED going to do to make sure we cross that tipping point and come out ahead?
Well, partly we have to focus on certain, there are crisis areas that we have to deal with.
Right.
And so maritime education, etc. We have to solve those problems. I think we have to do the catch up that's necessary. So K to 12 is absolutely necessary. And then we have to work on key areas, the what they sometimes call the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
We have to look at our institutions that can be world-class. I know sometimes that sounds elitist, but no. We have to have a few of them out there.
Correct.
Things that were happening before. Maybe they still continue, but we have certainly closed down quite a number of programs. We have a set of guidelines that will force or make sure that nursing programs who want to continue have to meet. They have to score above the national average in the licensure exams. So there are certain key things. They're still not the highest of standards, but they certainly will raise the bar a bit in nursing. And like I say, we have closed down institutions. That was, perhaps those were the only marching orders I got when I first got this job from President Aquino, was that close all of those nursing schools that are substandard. And so, but that was symbolic. It meant that there are a lot of things going on in the educational system that really should be remedied, and nursing was one of them. Yes.
How is CHED itself using technology?
Oh no, we're a long way, and see, you were saying earlier, don't listen to me, guys. This one, we keep repeating that within CHED. We have to deal with large amounts of data, and so we have to really upgrade our MIS.
So much wonderful data also,
MIS
right?
systems, so all that stuff really has to improve. We don't do paperless meetings yet. Many of our many of our higher education institutions, not enough of them, but many have started, sort of using paperless board meetings and things like that. So we're starting with little baby steps, but a long way to go. There's some technology in CHED.
By the time, so you're starting the Technopreneurship this year. By the time you leave office, what do you want to leave behind? What do you want to see happen in the future?
Well, like I say, I'd like that most of the substandard programs shall have closed up. Most of the rest gone up a notch, so that every Filipino has access to quality education. Because sometimes the quarrel is, why are you doing this? we have to make it accessible to our students who are in this far-flung area. Well, I agree. So access is an issue with us, but it cannot just be access. It has to be access to quality, at least the bare minimum of quality. Otherwise, what for?
Right. Also, if you don't teach them, then they're that much further behind. If this isn't part of the curriculum,
exactly.
the information divide will grow even more.
And then at the very top, I do want, a few of our institutions truly in the top 100 or 500, let's say. But certainly in Asia, I'd say top 100.
And then in terms of, I'll come to my last two questions, but in terms of now we have ASEAN Economic Community in December of this year, where do Filipinos stand in terms of?
Well, first of all, that ASEAN integration is a process. In December, nothing's going to really change. So, but the best preparation for ASEAN 2015 is quality, is the quality of our programs, the quality of our institutions, and we're really working hard on that. Now, so one must always end on an upbeat note. Or, I really feel that one should truly appreciate some of the strengths. I mean, we have signs that our education system, it's got to be good. You have Filipinos all over the world.
Yeah.
They're everybody relies on Filipinos. And my hair is standing. So they were educated here and they've got reasonably good education. So there are really positive signs. The fact that a lot of industries also, despite our problems with infrastructure and so forth, still want to do business here in the Philippines because our people are not just nice. We say, a bit exaggeratedly, we say we are English speaking, but the fact is we are.
Yeah.
When you travel abroad, you see that, oh my, in the Philippines, you can get by much easier with English. So that certainly helps. So there are many bright sides.
Fantastic. This actually came in from online education. One of the school owners had been talking to me about taking the CHED curriculum from kindergarten to high school and making it available online. Is there anything like that? A MOOC, the course of putting public education online?
So we're talking about it, and there are a number of young techies that we're bringing in who think that this is something that we can actually do, and I believe we can. It's just, again, a matter of getting started and doing it. In our case, we feel sometimes that we have so many balls in the air. So these are all good things, and they're all part of our agenda.
Yeah.
But I guess we kind of have a prioritization issue.
So what are the biggest problems that are standing in your way?
Well, one of them really is what the Philippines has so much of, which is truly, I guess it falls under the generic term politics, but it really means interference of the wrong kind, interventions of the wrong kind, and essentially, I like to give some of our politicians the benefit of the doubt that they might have, the right initial motives of wanting to do good by their constituents, but essentially pushing things when they do not meet certain basic standards does not help anyone.
Yeah.
That's why when I say access, I absolutely support that move for access, but it has to be access to quality.
Right.
And sometimes we are pressured into shortcuts and we have a tough time with reform because of political intervention.
Well, we've known that corruption is endemic in this country. How do you deal with that?
Well, little by little, and just being as firm as we possibly can, and trying to understand our legal system a bit more, because the fact of the matter is some legal action has to be taken, but on the other hand, there is legal action that prevents us. Every single, can I say this? Every single candidate who loses for, let's say, presidency of a state institution, well, maybe not every single one, but will surely, take legal action. I think people who don't get their way will use the legal system. So partly politics, part is the legal system too. There's something wrong. And so essentially, for instance, when we had to really try and bring the maritime industry to make them toe the line and to prevent the Philippines from being removed from the white list of the International Maritime Organization. It was the European assessors who came over commented and said, we do not understand your legal system because we tried to close a program and then they'll file a case against us.
Yeah.
So how does that look to the to the world?
Outside,
how does
correct.
that look to the outside? Correct. How does that look to the IMO? That we cannot even we promised to close substandard programs and we are unable to because it's such a litigious setup.
That's why we need more engineers instead of lawyers.
I agree. That is who was it who said kill all the lawyers?
Well, we don't want to kill them, but we want to create more engineers. Okay. What do you need? Well, this is my last question. I mean, what do you need people to do to help make this happen?
They say that Filipinos value education so much, they're willing to sell their Carabao in order to... So that may be true, but the fact is I don't think truly we have put enough into education. And I'm not talking just government, I'm talking even individual families, because families who are the consumer, if they were more critical about the type of education their children are getting, they shouldn't be paying tuition for something that is not, up to snuff.
Right.
So things like that. Be critical consumers of education and be real aggressive supporters of education.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We have been talking to the Commission on Higher Education Chairperson Patricia Licuanan on education in the Philippines, gender equality, the K-12 transition, not enough gender equality, and technopreneurship. Please follow. I see Ched at official Ched is online. Send any additional questions to them and join us again. I'm Maria Ressa. Thank you for watching Rappler Talk.